Thank you, Ginger, and thank you, Jim, for getting us here to the wonderful state of Illinois. And thank you to all of you for letting us borrow the First Lady for the last 7.5 years. And, of course, the other guy that he hangs out with. We appreciate it. It's great to be here. Again, thank you for having us here. Let me begin by talking a little bit about where we're at in Long Beach and lay a little foundation for the Long Beach College Promise. Then I'm going to ask Terri to come up and talk more specifically about our community. So, what is the Long Beach College Promise all about? At the end of the day, it's really what we all as a nation want to do. We want to make a commitment, a promise to every young person in our community, every young person, regardless of background, socioeconomic status, race, religion, color, what have you. Each and every one of them is an economic asset in our community, and we want them all to have an opportunity and to contribute to our community. And we do this by not pointing fingers at each other. And that might be a little strange to hear, but our program came out of a deep economic downturn in the mid-90s. And then the idea resurfaced and was cemented in 2008 at the beginning of California's worst recession since the Great Depression. So, California does share a few things in common with Illinois. We love to create problems for ourselves. But at the same time, we realized in our community that we can't wait for Sacramento to figure it out, and we couldn't wait for DC to figure it out. So we decided that together we were going to create a model that then could inform our policymakers in Sacramento. And that's what the College Promise is all about. So, again, I'd like to introduce Terri Carbaugh to come up for a few minutes to talk to you about Long Beach. Terri has a long history with our state. In addition to working at Long Beach State, she also spent many years in Sacramento as a policymaker. So with that, let me turn it over to Terri Carbaugh.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eloy. Thank you, Ginger. And thank you, Jim, for the invitation and making the arrangements and getting us here. So as Eloy mentioned, my name is Terri, and I work at Long Beach State University. And although today I work on a college campus, I have had the privilege of spending most of my career in Sacramento, working alongside and for some of California's most notable politicians. Beginning in the 1980s, I started with Willie Brown, who at the time termed himself the Ayatollah of the State Assembly. And although I laugh at that today, he was pretty serious then. And then leading forward to our Terminator Governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I had the privilege of working with him and serving as First Lady Maria Shriver's press secretary. So why do I share this with you? I share this with you because it's important for me that you know that I admire and appreciate the work that you do, and that I too have tangled and wrestled with trying to find solutions to some of our nation's most challenging societal problems. But what this experience has taught me is really that in many ways all roads lead back to the conversation that we're having tonight. That when we raise the education attainment levels equally of all members of our nation's communities, we'll find our nation will do much better. So what is the College Promise? Simply put, the College Promise is a promise of an opportunity for a college education for every Long Beach child. And that's not easy to do. So for those of you who are a little less familiar with Long Beach, let me put a few things into context. Long Beach is located in Southern California. It's a large urban city, and our residents there face large urban challenges. We have high unemployment rates, high poverty, crime, and gangs. Long Beach is also one of the most diverse cities in the country. About half of our population is Latino. We're home to the largest Cambodian population outside of Cambodia. And we have a sizable African American population. So while we treasure this, we're rich in our diversity, we also know that many of these communities have some of the lowest education attainment rates in the country. So when faced with this challenge, city leaders got together and they made a choice and they made a commitment to do everything they could to improve the educational outcomes of all Long Beach youth. So how do we keep our promise? Well, pretty much what we do, well, let me back up. So what is the Long Beach College Promise? So the Long Beach College Promise then is a partnership between three sizable education institutions. At the beginning of our pipeline is Long Beach Unified School District. And Long Beach Unified educates about 79,000 students each year in 85 schools that are spread throughout the district. Students and their families there speak dozens of languages. About 80% of our students are of color, and 68% are considered socioeconomically disadvantaged. Then when you move up the education pipeline to Eloy School, Long Beach City College, they educate about 30,000 students a year. And then on my campus at Long Beach State, we enroll about 35,000 students, and we have an annual graduating class of 9,000. Also important to note is that Long Beach State is a highly competitive campus to get into. We received 92,000 applications for only 8,200 seats in the class for fall of 2016. So in spite of this high demand, the campus retains its commitment to guarantee admission to every qualified student who lives in Long Beach. And we're very proud of that. So you can see the complexity of our community and the complexity of our education system in Long Beach. Keeping the promise is hard to do. So how do we do it? Well, we can boil it down to we put the needs of our students in front of the needs of the individual education institutions. We trust that our partners are motivated to serve the best interests of the students and not themselves. And so we have a lot of people working together every day to build a seamless pathway from pre-K through college and on to career. And as Eloy noted, we work really hard to make sure that we're staying on top of the needs, the contemporary needs of our students and families today. So we know that the students that we're serving now in 2016 are very different, have very different circumstances than the students we served in the 1990s. And they're even different than the students we served in 2008 when the Long Beach College Promise was launched. So one of the ways we're trying to stay in close touch, know what's going on in their heads, and know how we can effectively communicate to them and engage them in all that the Long Beach College Promise provides for them is we have launched a public engagement campaign. And that campaign is now centered on getting deep into the neighborhoods, really sort of taking my political background and overlapping that onto the education system, where we're going to go into each and every neighborhood, every street, whatever it takes, to make sure that every child in Long Beach, irrespective of his or her socioeconomic background, especially in our underrepresented communities, are fully aware and fully engaged in the Long Beach College Promise, and that they too see themselves as college ready. So with that, setting the context, I'm going to turn it back over to Eloy. And Eloy will explain to you in a little more detail how the College Promise works and how we measure our success.
Thank you, Terri, and you were very nice to her. You were all very quiet, so thank you. Okay, so as Terri mentioned, we're actively engaged in a new public engagement campaign, and we're very proud of the fact that this is something that's led out of Long Beach State University for the College Promise. So we are able to really leverage our assets in Long Beach. And again, this is sort of a lesson for us all on a broader, more scalable state policy perspective, that we can leverage the assets on each and every one of our public institutions in a way that better serves our students. Particularly in times when resources are tough, it's a time when really innovation can be sparked at the local level. And states can engage in helping spark that innovation and allowing local agencies, local schools, colleges, universities to really work together to blur the lines between each institution and really focus on the student. Because at the end of the day, this is really about students, not institutions. We have to change the way we think about things. We have to quit worrying about what's going on at my community college. I have to make sure that my faculty, my staff, my administrators are focused on what's going on in the community. What is the education attainment rate in our community? Not just when students hit our campus and leave our campus. It's about the entire pipeline. And when we can look at things that way, we are successful. And we can replicate it across regions, across counties, across states, across the country, if really we begin to leverage the assets of our public institutions. So, speaking of our partners in Long Beach, I'd like to give them a chance to talk to you through a short video that will explain each and every one of their roles a little bit better than I can right here.
The Long Beach College Promise is a commitment from the three institutions of education, Long Beach Unified, Long Beach City College, and Cal State Long Beach, to ensure that all of our students are college and career ready when they leave us, whether in high school, 2 years of college, or in 4 years.
It is a nationally recognized program that started here in Long Beach. It is going out into the communities. It's about doing outreach, ensuring that every young person knows that they have access to a college education. It's also measuring, making sure that students are succeeding when they're at college, and it's really providing also creating those pathways into the universities.
Long Beach College Promise is making a difference in student education by working with the students and with the parents as early as the 4th grade. So we begin as partners, helping the student understand that they have a place, helping them understand how to get there, working with the parents so that they understand how to get there, so that each student and their parents or supporters knows how to navigate our systems and that there is a place for them.
You have your own Long Beach College Promise. It's important because people are working together to ensure that every student is successful in whatever path they take, and you become a much stronger community. Since we've implemented the Long Beach College Promise, we have more business partners, we have more nonprofits working with us, we have people moving into this community from outside because they've heard of the Long Beach College Promise.
As mayor, the Long Beach College Promise is incredibly important because at the center of a strong city is a strong educational system. In the city of Long Beach, we have a culture of education. This is an education city, and so it's really important for us to ensure that our students are being supported, that we have the best faculty, the best trained staff, and also that we have great leadership.
We already have evidence that of the 800 or so students who joined us this year through the Long Beach College Promise, that they're much better prepared to be successful in English and in math than just a decade ago. This is a long-term commitment. We're going to stick with it, but it's all about making sure that the citizens of Long Beach get the best return on their investment in education, and that the students of Long Beach have bright futures because of the promise.
All right, so that gives you a brief sense of the College Promise. And really, you know, this video is about those young faces, those young people in the video. That's what we're all about, and that's what gets us to work every morning, and that's what keeps us working together. So, how does the Long Beach College Promise work? You know, there's a lot to be said about what does it mean to go to college today. And there's a lot of debate. Well, I've heard everything from not every student should go to college, college isn't for everyone, all these different takes on what that means. But you know what? I think the president put it very succinctly when he said that in years past, this country had a debate as to what would be the default to get into the workforce. The country decided that a high school diploma was going to be that default. The default today is some sort of post-secondary credential, and that's what it means to have every student college and career ready, because college isn't just about going on to get your bachelor's degree. It's about getting into a career pathway, achieving some sort of college credential that allows you to continue to earn. We know today that our students are going to live through 15, 16, 17 job changes in their lifetime. That's very different than when I grew up and when many of you grew up. I grew up in a community where there was Bethlehem Steel, Jorgensen Steel, Firestone, Boeing, McDonnell Douglas then, large employers. And although I know Illinois still has many of those large employers, that is becoming the exception. Certainly the exception in Southern California. So we need to prepare each and every student in our community, give them some sort of credential, some sort of skills that they can go on and really benefit by today's knowledge-based economy. So, how do we do this? We focus on building a college-going culture in our community. And I know that's easy to say and much harder to do, because we have people come in from all sorts of different perspectives, all sorts of different backgrounds. And let's be honest, when you're juggling 3 jobs and just trying to get ahead, one of the last things you're thinking about is your higher education. But we really want to ensure that every community, every family member understands the importance of that college education for their children and for themselves. Because we know, and particularly in California, the gap between those who have and those who have not is directly tied to some sort of post-secondary credential. Education is the key to social mobility going forward for all of us, and particularly in communities like Long Beach. So how do we do this for our students? We have a mayor who is committed to being a College Promise partner and who is working hard to ensure that we have universal pre-K for every child, for every family who wants to send their child to pre-K. We're well on our way to doing that. Working with Long Beach Unified, more than 80% of students have access to pre-K right now, and in the next few years, we will make it 100%. Mayor is also committed to doubling and soon tripling the number of internships that are provided to our young people, because we know that education doesn't happen in the classroom. Education happens in the workforce, and we need to get our children, our high schoolers, our college students exposed to that experience in the workforce. So the mayor brings employers together, I don't want to say twists their arm, but applies a little bit of pressure, some healthy pressure, to get them to open up their businesses, to give these young people a chance to experience work. Thank you. We have a work experience fan over here. The other thing that we do is we expose all of our children to higher education. Every fourth grader, as you saw here, that's over 6,000, nearly 7,000 fourth graders, spend a whole day at Long Beach City College walking through understanding what it means to go to community college and what community college actually means. Every fifth grader then spends a day at Long Beach State. Every sixth grader spends a day hearing about the private not-for-profit institutions, you know, schools like USC and Laverne and schools like that, Stanford. So that from fourth grade to 12th grade, every year they are getting messages about what it means to go to college and how to get there. The other thing that we do is we ask every student and their family member in middle school to sign a College Promise pledge. Why is this important? It sounds hokey, but if you get the parents and the students actually looking at a piece of paper, talking about what courses they need to take to graduate and be college ready, and what it means to go to college, then that education begins early, about course taking patterns, about A through G. In California, we're pushing A through G to ensure that they're all college ready. So we asked them all to sign that pledge to be college ready and to begin to explore career options as early as middle school. We also do this by providing the first year at Long Beach City College free, tuition free for all local high school graduates. As long as they come to us within 1 year after graduation, their first year of tuition is waived. And I know that we have members, I know Harper Rainey Community College and others in Illinois have been championing that as well, so I thank you for pushing that. It's not the only answer. Tuition is not the only answer, but it is a piece of the puzzle, particularly in communities that feel shut out of public education, particularly higher education. If we can lower one more barrier and just get them into our colleges, expose them to financial aid, to the various grants and scholarships that are available. In our community college, we give about $1.5 million a year in grants and scholarships to our students. So once we get them in, we help them understand how to finance higher education. And then at Long Beach State, as Terri mentioned, as competitive as they are, they guarantee admission to all local high school graduates as long as they meet the minimum eligibility requirements to get into Cal State Long Beach. That's been a very tough commitment to keep, particularly during California's recession. You've heard that over 92,000 applications were received this year. During the recession, many Cal State University campuses were impacted, but our local leaders kept that promise to our students. And this isn't just an individual personality of one president or another. We have had a series of university presidents, of college presidents, and superintendents at Long Beach Unified that continue this commitment because it has become part of the fabric of our community. It's become an expectation. And those are the kinds of expectations we want to create in communities. That's the kind of accountability that we want from our public institutions. So, the other thing we did in 2008 is we made a commitment in writing. And this is important because we wanted to hold ourselves accountable, not to state standards, not to national standards, but to community standards. So we drafted a Memorandum of Understanding, which became the Long Beach College Promise, and we hold ourselves to certain metrics. And every year, we have an event to celebrate the College Promise and issue a report card to the community, how our institutions are doing at all these metrics. And here's just a few examples. Over 63,000 students and their families have signed the College Promise Pledge. More than 70% of high school graduates are going on to a college or university, and that number jumps to over 82% 1 year after high school graduation. Over 12,000 students have taken advantage of at least a free semester of tuition at Long Beach City College. And Long Beach State, as has been mentioned, has its highest graduation rates in its history and has a much higher graduation rate than the entire California State University combined. And why is this important? It's important because in our universities, and I'm part of a group that's guilty of that as well. My other hat is a couple of years ago, the governor appointed me as a regent of the University of California. And you know, in California, the UC is the most snotty public university system in the state. I'm sure you have similar experiences in Illinois. And we pride ourselves on having some of the highest graduation rates of any public university in the world. But Cal State Long Beach did this by letting kids in, brown kids, black kids, poor kids, any kid who's eligible into their university, and they have the highest graduation rates of any Cal State. So it can be done. These kids can succeed, even though they're getting in, and this is a bone of contention in California, at lower GPAs than the rest of students who have to compete for Long Beach State. So it can be done. Some of the other metrics, as was mentioned, we have had the great opportunity at Long Beach City College to work with our K-12 partners and really change the paradigm. In our country, we've had a great debate over standardized tests, whether they be standardized admissions tests or standardized placement exams. So we took a hard look at over 7,000 students who came to Long Beach City College from Long Beach Unified, because we're able to share this data without worrying about what each other is going to do with the data. We're just focused on the data. And we realized that the placement exams that we were using at Long Beach City College were a very poor predictor of success. So we began to do away with them. We created a multiple measures placement model that uses high school transcript data. Basically, it's predictive analytics, using high school transcript data, such things as what math grade they got in their last math course, how they did in high school English, were they attending class, what was their overall GPA, what was their specific GPA in a particular subject matter. We use this data to create a model that better predicts success in college. Immediately, the first semester after implementing this, we saw over a 300% increase in the number of underrepresented students placed in transfer level English and 500% in transfer level math. So, now what does this mean? What it means is these are gateway courses. If students cannot get through these courses, they have no chance of going on to a public university or private university. No chance. And who are the students who are not getting through? Well, we know who the students are. We all know the data. So if we can do a better job of understanding where these students are when they get to us, instead of relying on standardized placement exams, instead of not trusting our high school teachers and their curriculum, we can do a better job of helping these students succeed. And this was made possible because of the trust that was built because of the college promise. It's about trust. Not much can go forward until that trust is built between teachers, between administrators, and particularly between administrators. Because let's face it, and I'm one of the administrators, we all want to talk about our great data. And that's all we want to talk about. We want to show the world how great Long Beach City College is. But you know what? We're not great if every one of our students in the community is not having access to our public education system and getting out of our public education system. We tend to celebrate those who are the exception. Think about it this way. How many Ivy League graduates are in the room? Well, there's a few. Don't be shy. You're usually not shy. Okay. There's a few Ivy Leaguers here. And I'm not here to bash the Ivy League, but think about it this way. In our community, Long Beach State graduates every year more Pell eligible students than the entire Ivy League combined. So, that matters in communities like Long Beach. That matters because that's where our students are going to go. That's where students need to go in order to gain access and complete their higher education, and do it in an affordable way. California still is a little affordable. Okay, so those are some of the metrics. So why is this important? In Long Beach, we haven't solved all the problems. We still have achievement gaps. We're still wrestling with all of the problems you all wrestle with every day in Illinois. We wrestle with systemic issues that continue to confound our efforts to help more students succeed. We're struggling with poverty. California has become a state of two Californias, those on the coast who have access to wealth and the rest of California who does not. We're struggling with that. And we came out of one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression, and we understand the pain of working with our legislature as well. So we understand about tough choices. You know, in California, the governor basically had to, I don't want to say put a gun to our head, but basically go to the voters and say, you either choose to fund our public education system or it will no longer exist as you know it. I'm sure you're having similar debates, and I'm not here to tell you what the answer is. All I know is that California has seen some difficult times as well, and we'll continue to see difficult times because of our tax structure. That's a whole nother presentation. But if we can create a model in California and throughout the nation where communities come together, leverage their assets, because look, folks, at the end of the day, there's only so much money to go around. Leverage their assets to get the greatest return on public investment. And public investment, I mean, this is good for Republicans and Democrats, making the most of the public investment by ensuring that institutions are working together, leveraging each and every one of those taxpayer dollars to ensure that we are putting out as many young people as possible who have some sort of skill or credential so that they can contribute to our economy. That's what it's all about. And it can be done in communities. It continues to spread in California. Legislature just introduced a package of bills titled the California College Promise. Many states are doing the same thing. I'm not saying that the Tennessee Promise is the answer or the California College Promise is the answer. Illinois will find its own answer. But Illinois needs to focus on that individual student, not on the institutions that it funds, and get everybody together, adequately fund those students, and give every student the opportunity. I know you can do it. We did it in California. We're still a long ways away. We have some great challenges ahead of us, but I think what we can offer is the fact that if we can work together, the job becomes a little easier. The job becomes a little more doable, and it gives our legislators an opportunity to think about this in a different way and to think about which constituent groups we really need to focus on. So I'm going to leave it at that. I could talk to you about the College Promise all day long, but I want to thank you all for the job that you do each and every day. I appreciate the work that you do. As Terri mentioned, it's not easy work. It is God's work, and it's important work. So on behalf of all the students of Illinois, thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for having us here in the wonderful city of Springfield.